hate you have lifted up their heads. They have taken crafty counsel against your people. You see, when they cannot touch God, what do? They go to God's people. It's very simple. When somebody wants to get you, and you cannot be, obviously you're not there. He's getting those that are close to you. Your people, your children. And then, against your people. And they consulted together against your sheltered ones. What is to be a sheltered one? Is to be protected in a divine way without having to do it yourself. And then they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel will be remembered no more. That's the key. The key is that the name of Israel should be remembered no more, because Israel is God's sheltered ones, His people, and if you hate Him, that's how you get Him. Very simple. So, throughout the history, Satan convinced nations, leaders, empires that Israel is to be destroyed. It's interesting, you think that in the 21st century, people don't think like that anymore. You think that we've seen the light. That in the era of internet and Facebook and Twitter and all of that, you won't find a nation that wants to destroy another nation anymore. You would think that after 2 world wars and tons of bloodshed throughout history, we've all learned a lesson, and there is no more nation that will rise against nation. Well, I have bad news for you. This is only the beginning.
That's right.
All we've seen so far in history is going to pale compared to what the future is going to bring. We learn nothing. Human beings are human beings. And if they're not choosing God, they will be deceived by the one who wants to be God.
Yes.
And I'm going to walk you now through these 3. First of all, we're going to talk about how Satan makes the nations want to get rid of Israel. It's very simple, by the way. Satan causes them to hate Israel because obviously he hates God. But watch this. God sometimes used that hatred that they already had in order to punish Israel. Make no mistake, He never told them to hate Israel. But sometimes He allowed them to do what they wanted to do for a reason. But always, He punished them for hating Israel. All throughout history, anyone that tried to destroy that nation eventually was judged by the Lord and was severely punished. And watch this. We start from the very beginning, that when we became a nation. When was it that Israel became a nation? Only when they came out of Egypt. Up until then, there was no nation called Israel. There were the Hebrews. These were people that belonged to certain tribes, but they were not a nation. From the moment Moses is taking them out of Egypt, now there is a nation. Now there is a leader. And now there is a God. And the commandments that God is giving them is the Constitution. That's it. It made them one group. And they start walking together as one group. From the very beginning, that they formed themselves as a nation, just as they left Egypt, what happened? You would think that after 10 plagues, and after all the dead firstborns, Pharaoh, Ramses II, would understand, that's it. Oh no. The first thing he did when he understood that they just left is what? And by the way, they did not kill anyone. They did not kill anyone. The angel of the Lord came and killed all the firstborns. None of the Israelites killed an Egyptian. So these are just people who just were the slaves 2 days ago, and now they're walking out, and guess what he's doing? He sent his biggest army and military task force to do what? To drown them. So many times, everything that Satan wants to do to Israel, God does to the enemies of Israel. Exactly the same.
Yes, wow.
And what happened to those cavaliers that came on behalf of Pharaoh? They drowned. That same sea that opened miraculously for the Israelites closed up miraculously, and they drowned. By the way, up until today, there are wheels of chariots from the time of Pharaoh II in the bottom of the Red Sea. Up until today. The pharaohs, the first want to destroy Israel as a nation because Israel just became a nation. And on the way, when the Israelites are walking all the way, another nation rose up to destroy them. The Amalekites. To be honest with you, I don't really, up until today, when I study the scriptures, I do not understand what the Amalekites wanted. It's one thing that the pharaohs didn't like Israel because their firstborns just got killed. But the Amalekites, we did nothing to them. There was no punishment above them. Nothing. But from some strange reason, the existence of the children of Israel was a problem for them. And they stood up to destroy us. And what happened is very simple. Eventually, we destroyed them, obviously with the intervention of God. But of course, it was a task case, a showcase that God wanted everyone to see. Anyone who rises up to destroy my people is going to be utterly, completely destroyed. And by the way, you know who heard about this later on? A lady called Rahab. She said, she confessed in front of those 3 spies. We heard